All right. Hey, welcome everybody to our monthly OCA meeting, our live stream. We're hoping everybody's staying healthy and had a great time over Christmas and New Year's. It's going to be an exciting show here tonight. We've got a lot of cool things taking place. We have some giveaways. We have a vendor showcase, and we have Dr. Jay Stauffer talking about Malawi cichlids. And so this is a great month to jump in and hear what's going on. And we've got Lou here and Don here, and they're going to just take it away and talk about everything that's happening. And we look forward to hearing what you have to say through the comments on Facebook and YouTube. You can comment anytime, and we can reply to it. And like I said, Lou's going to let you know more about the drawings that are taking place. If you want to get entered into drawings, just put stuff into the comments. I'll add to it so that you have a better description of what to do. But then at the very end of the night, we'll have a wheel, and it'll spin. And one lucky or two lucky people will win some prizes. So, Lou, give us an update on what's going on in the OCA.
Very good. Thank you, Byron. About those door prizes that Byron mentioned, like you said, there's going to be two of them. One is a gift certificate from one of tonight's guests. It'll be a gift certificate for something Fishy, who we'll hear all about the new store tonight. $25 gift certificate. Now, not everybody's going to be able to use that because you have to go to the store to use it. It's not an online kind of thing. So if you would use a $25 gift certificate to something Fishy, type in the comments SF. Okay, Byron will see that, put you on the wheel. You'll be in the drawing for the $25 gift certificate. The other drawing will be our regular door prize drawing for everybody that's online. It's a container of Aqueon flakes and a small sponge filter from Swiss Tropicals, and I think Hillary throws something else in there too. So that drawing is everybody that is online there will be in that drawing. Byron will put you in the wheel. Something brand new starting with next month's meeting. We're going to bring back the bull show, but of course, for now, it's going to be a virtual show. It's members only, as bull shows always are. And here's a little bit about it. It can be a photo or a 20-second video. Now, and we had a lot of fun with the virtual fish show at the extravaganza. And we'll try to continue that fun here. But this can be a photo if you'd like, or a 20-second video. Like in the extravaganza, we want to have a way to judge the size of your fish. So you got to put a ruler on the tank, hold it, or tape it. But you don't have to take your entry photo with the ruler. You can send in two photos. You could send in the photo with the ruler where they'll look at the size, and then a photo that you feel is judges the fish, shows the fish to its best, or a video and that shows the fish, and you might still want to put the photo with a ruler on there so that we could see it. So you can turn in two photos, one to judge a fish, one to just look at the size. It's like always, bull shows, honor system type situation. So this should be a fish that's in one of your tanks or a tank that you maintain, as long as you're the person responsible for that fish looking the way it is. It's good to have it in the show. There's an email address you'll see in the rules that you send these to. It's easier for Ron if you send them one per email, but you can send more than one if you want. That's not a rule. That's just to be nice to Ron, since he put all this together. Ron, by the way, is Ron Michael. He's our bull show chair, and he's the one that came up with all this with some help from Jeff Natterer, who did the who did the bull show for the big show for the extravaganza. Let's see what else. This coming month, so February, the first one they'll all have two classes every month. This one is some of the big Guapoti types: Parachromis, Amphilophus, Nandopsis. That's one of the classes. And another class is for planted tank photos. I guess you don't need a ruler for the planted tank photos. The entry window, you turn them in sometime between January 15th and January 29th. And that's the time that you put them in and send the email to Ron and for them to be judged. Now, that's just some of the rules. You want to see all the rules if you want to participate. So you can see the rules and the 2021 schedule and the cash prize amounts, which are bigger than our bull show has been in the past. So if you want to see those, you look at the January Buckeye Bulletin or on the OCA website, just under meetings, you'll see the information, the new information about the bull show. So Ron Michael has been working hard on this. Hopefully a lot of you want to give this a try, win some cash, have some fun. So look at the rules there in the Buckeye Bulletin or in the website. And, you could email me too if you have any questions, or text me, or however you know how to get a hold of me. And I'll direct you to the right spot. Our other virtual type activity that we're doing here is the BAP. We've been doing that. So here are the entries for the February BAP, the Breeders' Award program. Ron Michael, who I just was talking about, he turned in Cynotilapia zabroidus albino cowboy, which I must be the albino version of the classic orangeback Afra. So I haven't seen those yet. I'm looking forward to it. Jonathan Dietrich, also known to many of you as Jambi, turned in a couple of Vix, Enterochromis paropius, and this is Don's favorite fish name, Haplochromis nuki squamulatus.
Say that again.
No, you say it for me, Don. Nuki squamulatus. Not that hard.
Nuki lusquiatus.
Just keep saying Nookie.
Nuki. No, Nuki's. Nuki squamulatus. All right. And one of our past presidents, Bill Schwartz, has turned in a few. He's Metrioclima elongatus chawiri. He turned in the Tropheus Maliro firecracker red, and Labiatropheus Chihuahuaceae Chirwa Island red. So, I turned in one. I turned in Cyclopharynx foie, which is from the Foie River in the Democratic Republic of the Congo. We got some catfish turned in. Ron Michael turned in Corydorus Aeneas. Bill Schwartz, been a busy young man. He turned in Ancestris Green Dragon. And that's it. We did find out that we forgot to announce one back in September. So Bob Musial, back in September, turned in Farlowella vittatus. Pretty cool catfish there. So
Very cool.
those are the BAP submissions for this month. They will be, just as every month, it goes in, and then in the February bulletin, you'll see the points added to your total. So there it is for BAP. Let's hear what Don had to say. He's got a couple of interesting things for us. Don.
Well, before we start the vendor spotlight in a couple of minutes here, I wanted to let everybody know that we're planning a big Tropheus workshop on March 14th at 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. There'll be 4 mini talks and some roundtable discussion, some other activities, most likely some rare fish raffles and some giveaways. So let me tell you a little bit about the Tropheus workshop. We have 4 outstanding speakers that will be taking part. First is Odd Konings who will be talking about the systematics and natural history of Tropheus. We also have Pam Chin from the West Coast, the Tropheus expert and master breeder who has been to the lake many, many times. She is going to show video feeds of Tropheus in the wild habitats. And then we will have Leif de Mason from Old World Exotic, who has been involved with importing Tropheus since the beginning of time, and he's imported well over 10,000 wild Tropheus. He'll be talking about the history of importation and some other aspects of Tropheus. And we also have a special guest from Germany that will be joining, courtesy of Hans Evers. He is Matthias Eberhard from, like I said, Germany, the northern part. And he keeps a whopping 40 different varieties of Tropheus and has been to the lake at least 3 times. So he's going to give us some insight into Tropheus keeping in the European area there, in Germany in particular. So we're delighted to have those 4 awesome speakers involved. And I wanted to mention that this is being planned and then moderated by myself and JJ Stabbin Cabin, who will be doing a lot of the heavy lifting to plan the event and then also execute it. So that is going on, and watch for more on our various Facebook venues and on YouTube for some videos and ads that we'll have. So on the other agenda items for tonight, we have a behind-the-scenes tour of somethingfishy.net with Dave Hale, who many of you know from attending the extravaganza and popping in at monthly meetings, and especially the catered Christmas banquets. So welcome, Dave Hale. He's a longtime OCA guy, and he's going to bedazzle us with his, what did you say, 40,000, no, more than that, 40,000 some gallons? Or, I don't know. You'll tell us that.
When its new thing is finished, probably about 40,000 gallon running freshwater. The hatcheries are big deal.
We're having trouble hearing you.
Can you hear me? Can you hear me now?
A little bit closer and we'll be a little bit better.
All right, I'm trying.
There we go.
All right, sitting down. Yeah, roughly about 40,000 gallons running between the hatcheries and the retail store.
Okay, well, you plan to walk around and show us what you have going on there, right? This is your location on Broadview Road, your new location, is that right?
4873 Broadview Road, that's Old Brooklyn, Cleveland, 44109. And our hours at this time are Monday, Thursdays, and Fridays, 1 till 6, and Wednesdays and Saturdays, 11 to 5. And there's obviously the social distancing and the limits and the mask thing during retail hours. But this is a fish room, so I can't switch the camera probably on here, but so I'm gonna wing it. So there might be about 200 tanks. They're numbered. I'd have to count them all. Lose track when you start having so many tanks. So start with that one. That's the 375 gallon. Science says same fish poop every day. That's my saying. Malawians mostly, and there's some Tanganyikans. I have a big fire eel somewhere in there. He keeps wrecking the tank. He used to be at the old shop in the wall tank. So there's peacocks and half types, and there's gold sex fasciatus, phenocylus, slow size, which is one of my favorite, mabunas. And then we have, let me get down here. This is a 450 gallon display tank, South American. Silver arowana. There's a pair of Oscars, festivum, a red shoulder severum. I'll get my hand in there. There's my ray back there, swimming around my marble. There's his mug. What else I got in there? There's a couple cats hiding. There's a Ripsaw cat somewhere in there. I'm still doing some breeding here. I got a breeding group slow size, so these top 30 breeders are all fry up there. Stuff that's breeding here. Down this row, we got two 125s loaded with plants. So live plants are very popular. There's one of my breeding groups of slow size. Love that fish. I actually dove there, so it was great to be there and do the release thing for Odd a few years back. But Mabunas, and then we got the Badoka white lips. Then I got a menagerie down there of stuff. Assorted. Nice black angel, tetras. So it's double stacks, 125s, gallon breeders up on top. Red cap leopard knops, peacocks. We're specialized in cichlids. Africans has always been my thing. So I like the haps, obviously, bucos, some of the big predator stuff. Champachromis, Solarius, and Chromis oniceps. You don't see those too often. And then go down the middle, more haps. Catachromis quadrimaculatus and red empress and venustus, moriais, phenocylus, a lot of stuff. We breed quite a bit, obviously in our hatcheries, but I also ship in stuff as well, like wild Congo puffers, cute things. These are all 75 split. This is Bunas, yellow Tapabambas, pearl mutts, which we breed, yellows, and I just brought over some, pullets. Aggressive little guys, but they're cute. So there's some baby slow size. That's a popular one. Then some Central South Americans. I got Bocarterized and Red Terror, the festivums, Polonized Madagascar stuff. So rainbow sharks, Asian stuff, tiger barbs, more Central Americans, Midas, Mosterip, Irregulus. I might hold on to those to breed. I don't know. I'm still hobbyist by blood, even though I'm in the business. You guys know I've been in forever. So, yeah, I still want to keep. I don't know. Keep wanting to keep stuff. It's like sometimes I take my own stock home.
Hey, Dave.
Down this whole way. So for like little stuff, cherry shrimp, Amano shrimp, blueberry shrimp. I get all different types of shrimp and tigers, and I keep about 3 tanks of shrimp on hand usually. Then we got the rice fish and panda garas and pistogrammas. Rainbows, cories, I'm low on, but green neon tetra, it's a great fish. They're not too common. They get really nice when they mature. Definitely loaches, botillas. I like all those stuff. Pond loaches are obviously a popular one. Severums are always great. Red lines, red tigers, F1s. Then angels obviously are red cap, pearl scales. Got platinums. Rummy nose, more rainbows, wood cats. Those are cool. Those are fun. This is obviously right here. That fish is my favorite. People always ask me what my favorite fish is. Pertosas are probably the ultimate. I don't know. I say about 1,000 Pertosas I own at least with babies. I breed just about every one of them. I have all the Zaires. You name it. I've had it or done it, been there. It was great diving there a couple years ago. So, got Burundis, Kagomas, there's some daffodils, some Tropheus, some Mazis. I don't put Zaires in here because they're always sold. I can never produce enough Zaires for the market. I don't even sell online. Sometimes spring and summer I'll ship when the weather is much nicer, it's less hectic. We're busier typically in the winter anyway. Zumba comps, a lot of different techniques. Of course, I like techniques, comps, redfin comps, gold-face comps. Got these F1 Furs, Mark Wentz. Don't see those too much. I'm actually 2 sold. I'm taking a pair. shell dwellers, gold ocellatus, pearly ocellatus, multifasciatus, capillary regonites. I have a wild breeding pair up there, you can see. And I have a wild breeding group of, well, it's a pair with a big harem of fry of the Gambi transcriptus. And I'm afraid to move them. I got tanks ready at the other building, but you know, sometimes you move the stuff, they quit breeding or they want to kill each other, go on high domestic violence or something. So I got some wild Tenates, type of buffalo head. I got regular buffalo heads, definitely Cichlid cats, upside down catfish. I have multipunctatus, petricola, or lucipinus, whatever you want to call them. I don't know. I'm not a differentiate the loop eyes. I do breed some plecos. I got these blue eyes, which I need to get out of here because everybody wants to buy them, and we keep getting babies in there, and I just haven't had time. Oh, here's a fish. It's like best of show. The Gramodes. There's the ribbon up there. Trophy's in my office. That's a female. She just had eggs, but she eats them. I haven't put them together because anybody knows that's high in domestic violence. So I got to get a tank ready at the hatchery with the divider, the whole thing, and breed them that way instead of putting them together and risk losing them, you know, in war. So obviously lots of peacocks, lots of baby peacocks, young stuff, young up there. I do have a couple more shipments coming next week, some more different Techniquans, Busherize, and some other stuff. What else? Haitiensis, Cuban, Tetracanthus, stuff that I don't breed. So, yeah, it's always busy. I'm always selling and buying. It's like a constant thing. So we always got specials of some sort. Like tomorrow, we're doing a pre-bag sale. So I go through tanks. If I only have a couple fish left, we'll bag them up and I box them, and they're pre-priced up to like 75% off. So it's a good deal, and we clear some. And some people get some prices up, pricing good fish. So display tanks. Well, that one we sell out of. Those are discus. Not too many left. This is an 84-gallon extra high. Sephora, 36 by 18 by 30 high. I got some wild Congo tetras, and I might be putting some orange catfish in there in a group of trophies. I'm not sure yet. I got the overhead lights off. This is my Archer freshwater Archer tank. I'm still not finished with it. Aquascape is gonna be branches. I have Patho plants. I put a plant box in there and I drilled it, so it's like a raining, like spray bar kind of canister filter that returns hooked up to there. Biomedia and Chem matrix and sponge, so it serves as a filter system. And then the plants is obviously a natural filter system. So, and then this is a pop. This is the 32-gallon flex tank with my Congo puffer and some Congo tetras and a pair of Tenates in there with some live plants, Anubias, and some Cryptocaras. So that's a poplar tank. Four of them. They're not getting stuff in. Anybody knows is like a pain right now. Everything's slower and because of the COVID thing. This is a famous bi-level. It's a little bit different. Instead of sticking from like over there, I had a little less room. I'm about a foot short, so I went sideways with it. Step down or bi-level. South Americans, I got angels and severums and tetras, black ghost knife, which is poplar. There's some exotic plecos in there, like this para. Let me see. Sorry, where's he at? Right. Trying to get the camera on there.
Oh, yeah.
Guys still hear me? All good?
Yeah. There was a question about how long the females hold before spitting them. I'm not sure which fish that was in reference to, but
how long what holds?
The females, how long do they hold eggs? I don't know. Maybe it was on your frontosa, perhaps.
Well, typically any mouth brooder usually can go up to 30 days. It depends. I do not let them hold the term. I strip them. So usually 10 days is my schedule. Usually they're heads and tails. So it's easier to take them out or get them out when they're heads and tails. If they're eggs, I never use tumblers. I know they're available and they're supposedly good. I actually have one, never used it. I'm old school spec jar and airstone. That's it. So if they're heads and tails, they're moving around. They're not sitting stationary or anything like the eggs. They can fungus. If I do pull something too early, then I'll methylene blue them and high aeration. And a lot of times I still can hatch them. But when they're heads and tails, they're easier to come out of the mouth. If they're free swimming already, usually about 3 weeks or so, especially some fish like haps, they keep, well, some of them will just blow them all over the place. Then you got some that keep swimming back up in the mouth, get back in the throat. So then I'm cussing and she's stressed and I'm stressed. And so inducing labor like that's a pain in the butt. So when they're heads and tails, they easily come out. It's easy to raise. Usually about a week or so, they're about losing that egg sac or so. Then I move them to 5 or 10 gallon tanks in the hatchery. And then once they're like a certain size, then they go into like a 29 gallon, 75 gallon or bigger, that's why when I get fish with the other fish room, those bigger tanks, the 155 bows can be a grow out. I have some tanks at home I use to grow out. I have a 155 bow that I grow out babies. I got a bunch of slow eyes in there and my benjai, red tops, and I'm probably gonna put my Zyre MOBA babies in there to grow some of those out. So I have a few tanks scattered that I use just to get some fish, some size up to them. I'll turn on the light. Everybody likes B2. You guys know, you remember that I put in the show and took reserve best of show, best in class, whatever. She's long gone. She was almost 13 years old.
Which fish was that, Dave?
What's that?
Which fish was that? Oh, the Emperor Cichlid. Okay.
Bullets Michaelepsis.
Yep.
Wanting to bite my hand.
Are you breeding those?
Oh, I wish. I tried.
Yeah, you did.
Want a piece of me? So it's like anybody tries to rob me, I'm gonna sick this fish. Or her, this Dovii, that greets everybody comes to the door. She's usually teeth to get in the glass. So I call it my pit bull with fins. And then this girl.
I have a question for you, Dave.
Yes, sir.
Your water clarity looks rather good. Did you just tune them up for us tonight, or do you always keep? I remember you always keep them that way. So
yeah, one of my things is I want you to be able to drink the water and lick the glass. That's clean it better be. So my guys, anybody that works for me knows. We don't we rarely have sick fish, dead fish in tanks. You guys know I've been in this forever. This year is 30 years I've been in business, June. And I've been working in industry 38 years.
Congrats.
Been around the world multiple times and seen a lot of stores, been through stores, whatever. So I kind of know the ins and outs. I'm a small shop, but I'm picky on that type, that front. I want my tanks clean, healthy. None of my tanks are central filters. Everything is individually run. So, no cross contamination and virus and parasites and pathogens and, stuff like that spreading. I just don't believe in them. I'm old school that way. Sponge filters, my box filters that I make. And the bigger tanks obviously get some canister filters, power filters or whatever. So, yeah, this is 7 days a week. I'm here every Christmas. I'm here Thanksgiving. It's not, a lot of people get in this, you have a few tanks in your basement, make it a business. It's a big commitment. So when you have this many tanks, this scale, you got to have, good quality help, teamwork here, and constantly keep the tanks clean and healthy and keep the customers happy. That's number one.
Awesome, awesome. Did any other questions come in, Byron?
Oh, other than Don Gray saying, 30 years, I thought you were 35.
Don, you're my hero.
Hey, Dave.
I guess I look younger. Everybody's gonna be 52 soon, so yeah. Ouch.
It gets worse, believe me.
Ouch.
Hey, Dave, thank you for donating the $25 gift certificate.
Yeah, I'm throwing also something on there, a can of extreme food to go along with it. So.
You're the man. You're the man. So, awesome tour. I really enjoyed seeing your place that I haven't been to. I'll have to fix that problem. So, thank you kindly. Anything else you want to share with us before we move on to the talk?
No. Support your local fish store. Number one. The mom and pop shops need it more than ever, I'd say. So.
Amen. Well, thank you kindly. Much appreciated. Tonight you've seen something fishy. Just to point out, it says a J after the TH. Make sure you put an I in there when you go to his website. Next month, we will have George Anaglostopoulos. I probably butchered his pronunciation, from Agno Aquatics. He'll be showing us the behind-the-scenes tour of his wonderful shop in Parma, Ohio. So again, thanks to Dave Hale, and I'll turn it back over to Lou. And thanks. I'm going to sign off now myself and go watch the festivity.
All right. Thanks, Don.
All righty. Now comes to the meat and potatoes part of our program. Our guest is a longtime friend of the club. I first saw him speak 25 years ago, and I was immediately a big fan. He spoke at one of our monthly meetings at the Senior Center in Middleburg. He is a distinguished professor of ichthyology at Penn State University. He's one of the country's top ichthyologists, and he continues to contribute to our understanding of Lake Malawi cichlids. In his field, he's even better known as a leading authority on native Pennsylvania fish. I'm going to let him talk now. Here is Dr. J. Stauffer.
Hi, it's always great to be here. Like I say, I've been doing this talking to this group for 25 plus years, and I always learn as much as I talk about when I'm here. So I enjoy it. And with that, I'll pull up the PowerPoint and we'll get right into the talk. Can you see that okay?
You make it full screen,
Yes.
You're good. It looks good.
Okay. Well, tonight I want to talk about CT scans. We call it microcomputer tomography so we can get it published. But there's essentially CT scans of fishes. And we're trying to link the head morphology and to observe feeding behavior in cichlids of Lake Malawi. As you know, I've done a lot of work with breeding behavior of these fishes, and now we're looking at some feeding behavior. And so I want to talk a little bit about that. I've talked many times about how diverse the fishes of Lake Malawi are. Ad Koenigs thinks that there's about 850 species in Lake Malawi. Fewer than 500 of those species have been formally described. They come in all shapes, sizes, colors. They feed on different things. Almost all of them are mud turtle mouth brooders. And so we have a lot of fishes that pretty much are confined to the rocky habitat. They're called mbuna. But in the upper left-hand corner, you'll see a small fish by snail shell. That's one that has reinvaded the sand and lives in snail shells. And so they come a lot of different ways. They're pretty much monophyletic, maybe two different invasions of Lake Malawi for the cichlids, but the diversity is amazing considering how closely related they are. Now, George Barlow, who wrote a book on cichlids, most of you have probably seen it and read it, he maintained that behavior was a precursor to many adaptations. And because of that, we're describing new species of fish and looking for identifying characteristics. Sometimes we look at the behavior, and only by the behavior can we separate them into different groups. And for most of my species that I've described, the type series at the Penn State Museum is accompanied by a series of underwater videos as well, so that it looks at the behavior. Now, a lot of museums have not done this, and they want morphological or genetic information. And by looking at CT scans, we're able to provide this. Now, the micro CT scans was used to observe internal morphological structures. This is important. I'll talk about this a little bit later, how we tell different species apart. And what we're trying to do is look at these morphological adaptations and link them to observed behavior of cichlids in Lake Malawi relative to various food sources, and also to cichlids that occur in other basins like Lake Tanganyika. Now, these morphological adaptations were linked with respect to various available food resources. And so many of these adaptations have parallels, sometimes into really fine details. For example, I mentioned Lake Tanganyika. So you have Petrochromis in Lake Tanganyika and Petrotilapia in Lake Malawi, and they feed on similar things, and they're very closely, they're morphologically closely, and yet they're not closely related at all. And so we're looking at these various adaptations and trying to link this. And I'll be talking a little bit about this in some detail. Now, the reason we use micro CT scans is because we can do that and it doesn't require dissections. On your right-hand part of the screen, you'll see the lower pharyngeal bone and the upper pharyngeal bone of Dromatocranius placodon, and you can see the malariform teeth. Now, this is a diagnostic characteristic for Mylachromis, for several of the other genera, but we have to pretty much destroy the specimen. And if we do a CT scan, we can get the same information, which is shown on your left-hand part of the screen, that we get with the dissection. So it's pretty much doesn't destroy the specimen or morphologically alter the specimen. And as you know, many of the Lake Malawi cichlids are described on a single specimen, and then the holotype is in the British Museum of Natural History. Well, we can't dissect the holotype, but by doing CT scans, we can look at the internal structures, and it's particularly important to us. These high-resolution CT scans will also permit us to infer life history and behavior characteristics of rare or extinct taxa from detailed examination of morphology. And so again, we can look at the linkage between morphology and behavior. One of the problems with the fisheries in Lake Malawi, and they provide, depending on the source, some 60 to 70% of the animal protein consumed by Malawians, is that the species are not well known, and it's impossible to put in management strategies if you're looking at several species at once, because they have different life history characteristics, different breeding times, different breeding rates, the amount of eggs they can produce. And so by looking at CT scans of deep water specimens, which are sometimes very rare, we can infer something about what their life history might be. And so not only is it useful to the taxonomists, but it's also useful to managers and administrators that try to regulate the Malawi fisheries. Certainly, Lake Malawi cichlids feed on a diverse diet, including algae, plankton, crustaceans, snails, other invertebrates. Some feed on the scales and fins of other fishes, and those of you who've seen my previous videos, sometimes the videos jump because they also feed in the hair and the back of divers' legs. Some of them eat whole fishes and others eat fry and eggs. And I'll talk a little bit about the feeding strategy of these fishes. Now, Lake Malawi, as I've indicated and as ad is published many times, there are distinct specializations. And I think through a theory called optimal foraging theory, that the specializations get these fishes through periods when times are tough. On the left side, you see a swarm of lake flies, Calabras. When they rise out of the water and hatch, they attract a lot of birds, a lot of other fishes come feed on them. Whenever zooplankton and phytoplankton are abundant, many fishes will come up and feed in the water column, even those that are highly specialized for some other food resource. And so in Malawi, when you have the rainy season that starts in latter part of December, runs through January, February, sometimes as late as April, all the rivers drop in a lot of nutrients into the lake. And there's an algal bloom followed by a zooplankton bloom, and there's a major feeding cycle then. And a lot of the fishes breed then, and the young can come up and feed on the zooplankton and the phytoplankton, and the adult fishes do as well. Then after the rains stop, sometime May or June, you have the moera, the south winds, and they blow incessantly. And they pile up water in the northern part of the lake. When those winds stop in the fall, the lake rushes down, and you have an internal standing wave in the lake. Probably the best way to visualize this, if you take a basin of water and sit it on your counter and lift it a little bit and then set it down, the water starts sloshing back and forth in the basin. And this happens in Lake Malawi. Again, that releases a lot of nutrients from the bottom, and you get a phytoplankton, zooplankton bloom, and another major breeding season of fishes in Lake Malawi. Now, historically, we have used behavior characters that have been used to diagnose species and certainly genera. I mentioned in previous talks that just by the shape of the bower, this is a structure built one mouthful of sand at a time, and just by the shape of the bower, I can identify, in most cases, the genus of fish that built that bower, even if I never see the fish at all. And these are all commonly referred to as Utaka. Some of the Utaka, in fact, don't have a bower, but breed right in the water column. And the female drops the eggs, picks it up, and then goes to the male, nuzzles the male's anal fin, and they get fertilized there. So we have different types of bowers that identify them, their breeding strategy identify them, and we're trying to look at feeding as well. So most piscivores, most fishes that eat other fishes have large mouths. Their jaws are set with large unicuspid teeth. This is Rhamphochromus esox that you're seeing here, and you see the large teeth that are present for grasping prey. There are also pediaphages. Now, pediaphages, that translates to meaning baby eater, and they feed on the eggs and larvae that they steal from the mouth of brooding female. They have small teeth that are embedded into gums. And so when we get a fish that is very deep, that we can't observe its behavior, and it has this type of upturned mouth, this type of tooth that is embedded in the gums, we can hypothesize or guess what kind of behavior it has in feeding more specializations it may have. Other fish eaters mainly target fry or juvenile fishes. They do not have the large teeth to hold a wriggling prey, but they swallow them and take them in their mouth all at once. And again, we can look at the tooth structure and the skeletal features of the fish. Now, all piscivores, these are the fishes that feed on adult fishes. They have pharyngeal jaws, and they have unicuspid teeth on the pharyngeal jaws. In an earlier slide, I showed malariform teeth on the pharyngeal jaws, but if you look at the lower picture, you can see the triangular shaped lower pharyngeal bone, and above that, the upper pharyngeal bone, and they're all unicuspid teeth. Now, my point, this is a radiograph, a CT scan of Diplotaxodon dentatus, which was, Ad Koenigs and I published a description of this species. It was published this week in Zootaxa. It's a deep water fish, and the stomachs were all empty when we brought them up from 75 to 80 meters. And so we speculated, we guessed that it is also a piscivore based on its teeth on the oral jaws, and then also looking at the teeth on the pharyngeal bones. They're all unicuspid teeth, and this is characteristic of a piscivore. And so we guessed that this fish was also a piscivore, even though we had no stomachs that we could examine, or no stomachs that were full. They had all been turned inside out when we brought them up from that depth. Now we have other piscivores as well. This is Aristochromis christii. This one, excuse me, when it plays as though it's injured, and when other fish get too close to it, it rights itself and grabs them. And so we look at the tooth structure, we look at the head, and there it grabbed a fish. That one got away. They don't all get away, but we have some with a tail hanging out of its mouth to show that they don't all get away. But we can predict certain types of behavior based on the CT scans that we take. Other forms that are piscivores, we have one that lives mostly in aquatic vegetation, has green stripes and is camouflage. We have Linnae, which peeks around corners and captures fish when they move into it. And again, we can look at the head structure. Now, we also have Pediaphage. Remember, Pediaphage was baby eaters. Pediaphage, they eat the skin and scales of other fishes. This is a CT scan of the head of Geniochromis mento. And you can see the lower jaw protrudes. It has bicuspid teeth. And so this fish, these are two males that are fighting for territory. If you watch in the lower right-hand corner, you will see a Geniochromis mento come up. And while these two fish are occupied with each other, it steals scales to place the fins of the fish. They also eat the fins of a lot of different catfish, as do other ones. We have Actinolithrinus preorbitalis. These and many similar genera find their food, which are insects and crustaceans, in the sand. They have elongated snouts. They have very fine teeth. They're mostly bicuspid, and they will feed by plowing their head into the sand. We have other fishes that follow behind them and pick up anything that they might miss. And I've talked about that in earlier talks as well. Of interest are the Elanocara. Most of the Elanocara species will eat snails, although some eat insects that are in the sand. And if you look on the left-hand side, you will see big holes or orbits on the ventral side of the fish. And what this fish does is it moves across the sand very slowly and, quote, listens, unquote, to movement under the sand. When it hears that movement, it plows its snout into the sand and captures a snail or large aquatic insect that might be there. So again, we can predict different behaviors of deep water fishes that we can't observe because they're too deep for scuba, and we don't have subs in Lake Malawi at this time. So a lot of these behaviors of the deep water form are based on what we call, or what we term, functional morphology of these fishes. Jodongo bellicosus was a group, a genus, a fish we described not too long ago. This has very strong jaws, and they actually rip the attached algae and tear pieces of it off and swim away with a mouthful. And they have very long teeth, they're bicuspid, and they link together for this kind of feeding behavior. Trophiops, the lower and upper jaw, the teeth fit into each other, and they have a long, strong hold on algal strands, and they bite it into the algal mat, and they also rip off the algae and eat it and anything that's attached to it. Labiotrophus philiborni, earlier they talked about Chihuahuasi. It's also in that genus, but they have an underslung jaw, and we can have a whole series of teeth, and they feed at different angles onto the substrate. I'll talk a little bit about ones that feed at a 90-degree angle. These are almost flat, parallel to the substrate, and because of this underslung jaw. And so again, when we see this teeth form and jaw construction, it tells us a lot about the behavior of those fishes where we haven't yet observed them or they can't be observed. I've talked about this. I've showed movies of this as well, the Hemattilapia oxyrhynchus. This is specialized in scraping algae from Vallisneria leaves. It doesn't eat the blades of the Vallisneria, but just cleans them of attached algae and possible invertebrates. So they grip the blade in their teeth and move up the blade, and their teeth are set so they can feed in this manner. Now, this is Petrotilapia nigra, and it feeds on loose offwalks. It feeds at almost perpendicular angles to the substrate, and it's able to open its mouth, and we can tell that by the behavior, but we can also tell about the way the mouth is hinged and the way it can open up. This has tricuspid teeth, and it will scrape the algae and scrape the attached insects, zooplankton, whatever's attached to the algae. And again, we can use this as a diagnostic characteristic of the genus. Metriaclima also feeds at a 90-degree angle, as shown here. And again, we can tell them by the shape of the jaw and what happens, and look that they could feed. This is a Trophiops that just came in. It feeds at quite a different angle that Metriaclima does, and also the Petrotilapia, which I just showed you. Now, when we look at these, in color there is the parasphenoid with the ethmovomarine block. And that is particularly useful because we look at the angle of that ethmovomarine block to the head, and we can identify fish to genus based on the structure of the parasphenoid. We are now working as well on using the CT scans, because one of the characteristics of Metriaclima, it has a swollen rostral tip, this ethmovomarine block. And swollen, that's sort of a so-so term. I don't know exactly what it means. I know it when I see it, but now we're able to use a CT scan to actually measure the volume of this ethylene bone ring block, and then look at that and determine what genus a particular fish may or may not be in. We're doing a whole series of work on things that were once called elongatus, and some of the elongatus are in Metriclima, some are in Trophiops, and some are in Chidungo, which I mentioned. So what we've done is we highlight the use of high resolution CT scans to link morphological character states with observed behaviors. And we can use that for guessing what kind of behavior the fish may or may not have, what type of food it eats. We are also looking at CT scans of the entire body of the fish, and we will see snails in the stomach. And so we can determine what they actually eat without dissecting them and morphologically damaging the specimen. This is especially important when we have type specimens where there may be one or a holotype and one or two paratypes, or simply a holotype. And so we can look at this, and we look at the teeth. If you look on the top row, the second one in from the far right, that's a Libidinochromis. And the Libidinochromis, they a lot of the diagnostic characteristics are based on the structure of the teeth in the upper jaw. And we can look at this and actually measure these teeth and much more accurately and much more consistently than we can with the dial calipers. We're now, I should mention too, that we take these CT scans, I can go in and look at the entire skeleton every 35 microns. And sometimes when I do it, depending on the CT scanner I can look at it every 20 microns. Now there's 1,000 microns in a millimeter. So I can very finely examine the head structure and look at the whole skeletal system and how everything is put together, and make predictions as to which species belong in which genus and so on. So it's a very useful tool both for systematists, taxonomists. It's a useful tool for fishery managers, because we can predict the different type of behavior where that behavior has not been observed or examined. And so we can predict quite a bit about the fish, about its feeding habits, what kind of food it eats. And we find it particularly useful because we can link certain behaviors. And so if we have these certain morphological characteristics, but don't have underwater videos or underwater observations of the feeding behavior, we can guess what that feeding behavior might be. And so with that, I'll open it up if anybody has any questions. Thank you.
Ask you just to point out something. I don't know if everybody noticed this, but all those skeletal heads and jaws and pharyngeal jaws, those are all from either live fish or whole specimens, right?
They're from whole specimens. They're preserved fishes, but they are from whole specimens.
Okay, you don't do that to live fish. That's not practical.
Yeah, I was going to just get to that. We just got a new CT scanner a couple of years ago, and we're experimenting. We can put live fish in the chamber, and actually one of the problems with describing species in systematics, we have what's called allometric growth. And so allometric growth, the best examples to use that when a human baby is formed, its head is a much larger percentage of its body when it's a baby than when, say, it's a teenager or an adult. So you have different body parts growing at different rates. We have this with fishes as well. And so we can look at fishes that we raise in a laboratory, put in a live fish, do a CT scan of it, and then take it out, grow it a little bit more, CT scan again, and we can measure the allometric growth of its head that way. Also, as I mentioned in other talks, Traumatis cranus placodon is a facultative snail eater. And so if the young are not fed hard food, they don't develop the malariform teeth on the pharyngeal bone. But if they're fed hard food when they're very young, they do. And so we can feed these placodon different foods, put them in CT scan, and then examine how these malariform teeth develop, how soon they develop, how fast they develop. We have the technology, we can do this. One of the problems is convincing our Animal Use and Care Committee that we aren't doing irreparable harm to larval fishes when we put them live into a CT scanner, because we're exposing them to x-rays. So that's a battle I fight every day with our Animal Use and Care people. And I won't get into my stand to talk about that tonight. But
Matter of balance. Matter of balance. Jason Reddy wants to know, is this why all Mbuna are being reclassified?
Yes, because we're learning a lot more about the Mbuna now that we can look at, it allows us to go back and look at the type species of several genera when that genus was based on a particular species and we only have one sample of that species. And so then we can go down, we can't dissect it, we can't observe the behavior. And a lot of the earlier species descriptions, the type locality was Lake Malawi, because the earlier scientists didn't realize all the endemics associated with each island and each rock outcropping. And so we don't even know where some of these type specimens originated. And so now we can go in and critically look at the head structure, and as I say, analyze that. And I can look at this head structure at a minimum of 35 microns. So I can look at the bones, how they work together, and then I can predict what goes on with the fish.
Right. While we're on that, Joe Doyle asked, do you use computer programs to look for differences between structures, or is this manually accomplished?
No, we use computer programs. The Viso, which is probably the first and one of the very best, we use that. And there's a free system now called Dragonfly. And with that, we can look at our CT scans. Now, it takes about an hour to make a CT scan. It costs a couple $100 to do it. And then we have to, we take a whole series of TIFF images, and then we put this together and we can slice it, like I said, every 35 microns. We can do an isosurface. We can isolate particular bones and take the bone out and look at the bone itself. And so it's a very powerful tool. In order to use these computer programs, I can't do it on my laptop. I can do it on my laptop, but it's very slow. My desktop computer has a 128 gigabytes of RAM. And so I can analyze these CT scans. My graduate students, I just bought one for them that has 350 gigabytes of RAM, but they won't let me use it because they use it all the time.
Right. Some newbie named Larry Johnson asks, How long does it take to describe a species of fish from collection to final description? And I'm sure it varies, but you can probably give us an
Yeah. Well, let me back up that right now, I'm going to retire probably in a couple, 3 years. And I have about 40,000 fish from Lake Malawi in my collection. And I don't think for a second that Penn State will hire another ichthyologist that works on Lake Malawi fishing. So I'm moving my Lake Malawi collection to the South African Institute for Aquatic Biodiversity. It used to be in Grahamstown. They changed the name of that to Makandra. It's with Rhodes University. And so as I'm moving those fishes, I'm working 6 to 8 weeks in South Africa looking at these. I point that out because some deep water collections that we moved and I was examining them, and I identified all the fish as Diplotaxodon argentis. And I'm looking at this collection and I find that there's 7 fish that aren't argentis, but they look very similar. And so I found those fish in February. That paper was published last week, or this week. In fact, it was published Monday in Zootaxa. So it took less than a year once I recognized the fish to actually describe it, write it up, and publish it. But it took me 30 years to find it. So from the time of collection till it was described was over 30 years. It's a deep water form. From the time I found it, I could get it published in about a year. And it depends on how many species you describe at once, whether you're putting them into a separate genera. So it depends on a lot of different factors. It depends on whether you're using behavior as a diagnostic character. And then you have to analyze all the underwater videotape, analyze the behavior. On some of these sand-dwelling fishes, I take about 20 measurements on the bower so I can quantify the shape of the bower, because the bower shape is the diagnostic character in the description of the species. And then you have to go back and try to find morphological characters that correspond to that. I will say that in Malawi cichlids, if you took a beach seine and seined and brought all the fishes onto the shoreline, you could probably separate the males into different groups. But the females, it would be very difficult to match up the female with the right male. So when I collect fish in Malawi, at least in the shallow water, I have a net that about a quarter of a centimeter mesh. It's about 8 meters long and 1 meter deep. And I will take that, tow that behind me while I'm scuba diving, and I will find a male that's breeding. As females come in and breed with that male, I capture the female, she leaves, and after 4 or 5 females breed with that male, I capture the male and I put them together. And so if I separate them when I collect them by their behavior, it's much easier then to find morphological characteristics that separate the species. If I didn't do that, it would be really time consuming. So in answer to that question, it also depends upon how much data is gathered when you collect the actual specimen.
Right.
So I don't know if that's answering the question or not. But
okay. Well, it's still interesting. We have a couple of related questions here. One is, do you only scan wild fish, or have you used later generations of aquarium generations? And the other question is, have you looked at the same information on some of the species that have been in captivity for a couple generations? Or are we using all wild fish, I assume?
Well, I know this is a cichlid, but I'm going to shift gears here because I just described 3 new species of salvelinus, a brook trout type thing, from Great Smoky Mountains National Park. And so now the state fish of Pennsylvania is a brook trout, but there are no brook trout that occur in Pennsylvania. They're all different from the type collection in New York. And we are scanning a lot of fish that we collect, and by their scans and by the development of the different bones in the head, we can tell if it was from hatchery stock or a wild fish that was caught. And so we've done that. We're also scanned Traumatocranus placodon that we bred in the laboratory to look at the development of the malariform teeth on the upper and lower pharyngeal bones and how fast that occurs and how dependent that is on the food that we feed the larvae.
But never done it with cichlids, but it's
Well, we did it with placodon from Lake Malawi.
Oh, right. Okay, so they change.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Very good. Okay, I think that's all the questions we have. There were some very good questions from our audience. So I appreciate that, everybody, for sending those in, and I appreciate you taking the time to speak with us, Jay. That was fascinating as always.
Well, I always enjoy speaking to this group, and I appreciate the invitation. And I wish you all the best and wish you all stay healthy.
Okay, hope to see you soon.
All right.
Okay, you guys
Jay.
take care.
That was awesome. Well, Lou, we're on to the name picker. We're ready to do some drawings, and everyone posted saying they want the Something Fishy gift card. No one posted just for the regular drawing. So everyone here is going to get a chance to win this $25 gift card, and I'll make that full screen here in just a second. What was the other prize we're giving for the door prize?
The one that's for everybody, even if they don't put in SF, is let's see, a container of a good-sized container of Aqueon food and a small sponge filter from Swiss Tropicals.
Okay, good stuff. Well, we'll go with something fishy gift card first, and that's the one that everyone wants. If you do win, your name is removed, so you can't win twice in one night. But we're going to make that full screen here, and hopefully you're the lucky winner. And here we go. All right, Karen Lemley. Do you know who that is, Lou?
No, but she's been commenting.
All right, we'll have to get her information, and hopefully we can get that gift card to her. Congratulations, Karen.
Hey, Byron.
Yeah.
There is a catch to this other drawing that we're going to do.
Okay.
We're only going to send the prize to OCA members.
Oh.
If they're not an OCA member, they're still going to win, but they're going to win a year's membership in the club.
Oh, that's an awesome catch there, Lou. I did not know that. Well, yeah. Hey, so it's a double win. If you are not an OCA member, you are now, and then otherwise you win the prize. So here we go with the next drawing.
I know Dan. I think Dan joined. We'll look that up later.
Okay.
But yeah, I got some nice fish from Dan. I'm raising up some plecos from Dan, super red calicos. Can't wait to breed them.
Oh, very cool. Well, we're done with tonight. It was a great talk. I mean, full featured stuff, having a vendor, having an expert talk about Malawi cichlids, and learning about all the great things coming up. Any last words you want to tell everybody, Lou, before we head out?
Hope to see you next month.
All right. Well, we'll see you guys this February on the first Friday of the month. Take care, and we look forward to seeing everyone.